Okay, want to talk more about writing again and just, overall view of stuff I've been seeing and paying close attention to, and it relates to my own writing, right? So, I'm writing all these novels and these short stories and anthologies, and um, well, I'm very happy about that. You know, it's part of the creative collective on this platform and others. I can really tell you that most of these stories were, for the longest time, in rough draft. Well, I don't want to mention any spiritual places, but rough draft havens. The rough draft um, bin. And I decided once we had the pandemic, you know, and couldn't go anywhere, it was time to start working on them. I wasn't going anywhere. I was still recovering from my stroke, so I decided, okay, let me just go and write these stories. And Relay have been sitting there for 30 years. You know, most of the short stories in Storm over South Central have been sitting there longer than that. And once I had a chance to sit down and rewrite them, I really felt, okay, I can add this into a story, I can add that to a story. There are stories that I wrote since high school that when I was working at the corporate job and we had a little break, um, my manager was trying to figure out, what are you doing? I was writing a story. I was using the computer for helping to write the story. I didn't have a laptop at the time, which I did. That to make it easier. But I was just kind of writing my stories and then put them in a disc and take out the disc when was done for the day, because work was really slow. Work was really slow at the corporate job. So, I started working these drafts again during the pandemic, and as a way for me to recover, get my brain working again, because my brain was really not at the capacity that it is now. Um, my mind was working. All my creative muscles were back slowly, very slowly. And I just spent time just indulging myself writing a page a day. Because, when you are a stroke survivor, you don't want to overdo it. You just want to ease into things. And because of the pandemic, it was much easier to ease into things, right? Because you're not going anywhere. And you had to wear a mask. Nothing was happening. So it allowed me time to write those stories. It allowed me time to work on a few um, poems. And really, just for the novel was, I just said to myself, I got all the time in the world. I'm not going anywhere, not doing anything. I got all the time. So after I finished Relay, which was the first novel, I was feeling very happy with myself. I said, wow, I finished it. And I really took the time. You sit down, you take the time, you don't rush. And all I did was make sure that I got the characters right, the situation right. I kind of slow walked the journey of the four young men of the Appleton high school relay team. I slow walked that to eventually worked out the story that I did. In the case of Strange Tales of Science Fiction, those stories have been sitting there for 40 years. Some of them, or three out of the four. So I was able to revise them, make them, change them in a way that were kind of the tone of the old Twilight Zone Outer Limits stories. And yes, I did a lot of research um, during the pandemic or during my recovery period when my brain was trying to really jumpstart things all over again. I had to go back to the 1970s, and I was a kid, to watch old clips of news programs, those morning shows, game shows, you name it. Then my mind settled on the Outer Limits and the Twilight Zone. And watching those stories and watching how those characters and the plot turned out, then it kind of gave me an impetus to say, okay, let me just read a story that way. Also read some science fiction stories online. Um, through the You can download the old science fiction magazines, and you can take a look at the content, which helped a lot. Glad to have them online now. So I was able to get as much information in the tone and the tenor of the sci-fi stories I was writing. And Strange Tales of Science Fiction turned out the way it did. And it's all about fate. Well, I had in my corporate job spent time rewriting that. So I had two long rough drafts of the novel. And all I had to do was change a few things, uh, kind of soften the harder stuff that was really hard. It was a hard novel at first in the rough draft, but once I softened some of the characters and some of the wording, then it became the novel that it is now. So, you know, you just can't, when you write a novel or write a short story or write anything, you just can't breeze through it and thinking that rough draft is your completed draft. It takes time. I was sitting with members of the workshop that I'm a director of, and they were talking about drafts. Right now we're rewriting stories for an upcoming anthology that they're about to produce. And all I can tell you is that the drafts, man, you know, they sound interesting, but the critiques, wow. Wait till my story gets up there. Right? wait to start sharing my story. But it just takes a while to develop the draft that you want with the characters that you want. Or if you're writing a nonfiction piece, make sure you have all the facts together. Take time, gather all the information, and make sure that everything's correct. If you interview someone, make sure you have the right quotes. Make sure that you list down who you spoke with in your interviews, and then leave the rest. Leave the rest. You know. But rough drafts are just another way of just producing work to getting you to where you want to go. It's not definite, and they're called rough drafts for a reason, right? You're just writing out ideas. You put them on paper or on screen for the first time, but then after that, you can't be satisfied with that one draft. You got to keep writing. I mean, I must have rewrote, I've rewritten, there you go, correct word. I've rewritten some of these stories over and over again to the point that I got sick and tired of rewriting them. Like, okay, I'm done. I'm gonna, a story like A Night on the Beach, or A Night on the Beach in Strange Tales of Science Fiction. Do you know how many times that's gone through revision on my part? And that was a story that I shared with a creative writing class way back when. And so we're talking from that time I wrote it in class or shared it in class to the time that I published it in a book, that it took a lot of rewriting over and over and over again until I finally decided the characters need to change. Again, because of the influence of the Outer Limits, I changed the story to where it's set in the 1960s instead of just from the original draft, set it to modern day times. The ending is still pretty much the same as the rough draft, but again, the way that we get to the ending, I had to change. The situation had to change. So I'm very glad with the final piece that's now published. But the rough draft, again, it took a long time to get there. That's why you can never be satisfied with your rough draft. Just changing, it's always constantly changing. It's constantly morphing into the version that you would like it to become. And that's what I'm hopefully trying to convey to all of you so-called aspiring writers out there, or forget the word expiring, scrub that. writers out there who are not aspiring. But really, just that rough drafts are that roadmap. If you want to get to published city, then you have to know there's twists and turns and the roads you have to take to get to that city. But eventually you'll get there. The car may start funny, you may need a tune up, but at the same time, once you get the car rolling, you're on your way to published city faster than you expect. All you gotta do is keep working on that car. Hey, my agent's calling. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much for supporting me, and I do hope that we'll have a chance to talk soon. Until then, as my agent's still calling me, take care.